Howdy, Banger Pals. Blayne Smith welcoming you to another interview on the channel, and a very exciting one for me. I'm here with Brendon Small, creator of Metalocalypse home movies, the man behind Dethklok, and just some of my favorite projects ever.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It's nice to be here.
You know, you're kind of neck deep into the tour now. Is this like a very kind of relieving tour to get, where you kind of finally are getting a bit of closure on what is a pretty big part of your life?
Absolutely. The answer is yes. This is crazy because I've been doing this for I've been doing the project for a long time, and it's been dormant for a long time. And then somewhere around 2019, we started getting asked to do shows again. And so that kind of kicked the door open for this movie that we just put out, Army of the Doomstar. The soundtrack, which is like a film score kind of a soundtrack we did with like an orchestra and everything, and Dethalbum 4. And so I've been working on this whole project for about 2.5 years, like from the movie to the record to this, to prepping this tour, to going out on the road. And so this is like, it's like an office kind of like field trip for me, because I've been inside of an office for like 2.5 years just losing my mind. But it's really fun. I get to play guitar, I get to scream in a microphone, and it feels like a good piece of closure to the whole project itself and to this amount of work I've been doing. So it's been pretty fun. I have to say, being on tour with Baby Metal has been wonderful. Jason Richardson is just a ridiculously good guitar player, and so are all the Baby Metal band. They're so good. And so it's been fun. Every night we hang out and we talk about guitars. That's all we do. We sit there and we talk about strings and picks, and it's like the nerdiest thing you could do.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, you picked a bunch of guitar nerds to go on tour.
I know. I'm like taking lessons, so I'm like learning stuff throughout the whole thing. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's kind of a weird time to be on tour for you as well, because like you have two halves of yourself, where you're a writer and a musician, and if you weren't a musician as a writer, you would basically be like locked up right now.
Yeah.
And so is it nice to kind of have the freedom with, at least with music, you can kind of go like, I mean, as you've figured out with Galacticon, if you want to make something with music, you can just make it, and you don't need anyone to say, give you permission or anything.
Exactly.
Like that.
Music is cheaper to make than a movie or a TV series. So I can always just go into my studio and come out with something if I want to, you know, if I feel inspired to. But yeah, the musician part of me is very active right now. The writer is very dormant, the director and the actor are off striking, but the musician is still here. And it's been really fun because it's something I have to kind of awaken inside of myself, is performing on stage, going through all the kind of trials and tribulations of live playing, switching pedals, like crossing my eyes beyond the microphone to see what I'm doing on the guitar, and to be able to like flip in the pedal and hit the right thing at the right solo. So it's been fun, but you know, you just sit there from night to night and you just isolate all these little micro problems and get it all smooth, and then try to have the best show over and over again every single night and try to beat last night's show. So it's fun. I consider this show like bad dinner theater. We step up, deliver the line the same way, and try to make it just sound just like the record. Nothing new, no artistic express. We're in lockstep with the picture. So we have to kind of be bad dinner theater actors every single night.
And I guess it's like your kind of like universal punishment for trying to cheat in making animation and have it loose and not scripted. Then you get into music and you're like, no, you have to follow. You have a thing behind you have to follow for the first time in your life.
I can't go off script. Yeah, exactly. Because I like to improvise. I like to like take dialogue or work with people and take, you know, dialogue as suggestion and put it into our own words. Like in home movies, that's what we used to do.
Yeah.
We would have a script, we'd read through the script and then turn it over and go, let's just try to do it from memory and let's see how far we can get, and let's forget the script for a second. But you throw the script away, which is crazy as a writer, because you're like, I worked on this script, I wrote all these jokes, I wrote all these character moments and story, and then you throw the whole thing away just to do improv. This is, yes, the very opposite. Step up, do your line, and do it right, exactly as written. No tricks, no funny stuff. And this has been so crazy because, like I said, I've been in an office with like fluorescent lights screen sharing for 2.5 years, so being around people again is really helpful. It's really nice. It's good for my mental health, I think. For me, I get bored easily, and it's really nice when you're working on a project to go, oh, fuck this, I'm gonna go work on some music now. And just go, oh, thank God for music, thank God. And you go, oh, fuck this music, can I go back to writing? So I'm always switching back and forth. And kind of slowly building them at the same time.
There's been a weird thing with Metalocalypse where you've written a bunch of stuff that has seemed crazy and it kind of has come true. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you started with this idea where, all right, the lead singer is going to be Corpse Grinder, and then almost immediately Corpse Grinder is in the show. You know? You're like, oh, we'll record in a sub, and then like one of the first live shows you play is on an aircraft carrier. Is there, what's like the craziest thing that like kind of came out like that?
Everyone asks, are all these characters all based on these different people? And I say, not really. There are two characters that I think about that were definitely people that I thought about. One is Corpse Grinder for Nathan. Corpse Grinder, his stage presence meets Conan the Barbarian, meets like the biggest idiot in the world, which is not Corpse Grinder or Conan. It's the internal idiot coming from me. And then Quasar was kind of like the attitude of Yngwie Malmsteen, just a little bit, right? I would read all the guitar player articles or guitar for the practicing musician, all the things when I was a kid, and I would read his articles and I'm like, this guy's got a real personality.
How can less be more? It's impossible. More is more. You know, simple logic.
And he's undeniably one of the geniuses of guitar, and I love him to this day. And so I thought I'm going to honor him a little bit through Quasar and Sweden and Norway and all this, kind of all the different patches of extreme music all around the world. So I don't know what else. I mean, there are a lot of crazy things where there's a Florida episode where Nathan becomes the governor of Florida, and it started to kind of echo American politics after a while. Actually. Because also the idea was these guys are dipshit celebrities who are, for some reason, because they have so much money, they're influencing culture, politics, everything. And we have a lot of that going on right now where people that are popular through TV shows and stuff like that have just taken on the mantle of some kind of, governmental kind of thing that's like, we were doing it as a joke, and in real life, it's a little bit scary.
No, you definitely kind of accidentally predicted the, like, what do you do if an individual or couple of people have as much money as a small country? Like, how do you govern these people? They become ungovernable.
And that's what this whole show is about, this stupid and selfishness of celebrity. And that's what the whole arc is, from the very beginning to the very end.
Yeah.
Will they go from selfish to selfless? Will they go from, like, this corporation to a religion? Where does it start and where does it end? And all that stuff kind of does come into play, but we didn't. Drinking bleach, that was something else that, like, I remember my friends, like stoner friends in high school, like, here's how you pass a drug test. I don't know if it influenced anybody, but it definitely, like, it was if you give a celebrity idiot a big stage, what are they going to start saying? So
it's funny when you do see the slight reflection, because I know you've talked about starting out and having stage fright. And, I'm a comedian and I've done that. And then all my friends are comedians, and the amount of them that have stage fright. What do you think it is about, like, people that, like, almost like chemically have like their body is trying to force them off stage, going and being like, well, let's just do the most vulnerable thing possible on stage. Like, no music no one standing behind, just me here.
I think it's a natural thing, and I think it makes sense that most people have that thing that say, hey, stupid, don't go near that microphone. You're going to ruin your life somehow. It's scary. You could really destroy everything. You could say something stupid, and I think it makes sense to be frightened by it, Also, you care about it and you want it to be good, right? And you don't want to fail. And failure is pretty treacherous in stand-up. It really is, because, like, even if, like, we fail, if the power goes out or something goes crazy with our screen or something, I'm failing with this whole group of people. I have a whole team. Like, everyone's failing with me. The guitar tech, everybody, the roadies, everyone are failing with me. When you're failing at stand-up and just eating shit and bombing, it's you, and you've got a really long walk home to think about everything that you've done.
You've got, like, a pretty decent grab bag of characters. Has there ever been a plan for, like, a stand-up special with just a bunch of these characters popping out?
That's really fun. It's funny. With guitar, with comedy, with characters, with acting, even if I didn't have a platform to do it, I would just be doing it for fun anyway. I sit and I play my guitar just for fun. I put time aside in my week to just sit and play for fun. Those characters, I just did them to make my brother and sister laugh, on a car ride one time, and I was like, oh, I should remember these characters, and I put them in kind of home movies, and different incarnations show up in, Metalocalypse and stuff. But it's just fun. Like, I think about if I ever wanted to act, I'd love to just join, like, a repertory theater in some small town and just, like, just participate in something. Not to make money, not to be famous, or not to do anything. Just because it's actually really fun. It's a fun project. All these are terribly treacherous brain puzzles. Making a movie, writing a record, doing a guitar solo in front of people, acting or doing voices and all that stuff. They're really scary things, but there's nothing else to do. I think everyone's the same way. It should be really fun first, and then maybe monetize it after. With stand-up, I only did it because I enjoyed making an audience laugh. I never wanted to have a special or anything like that. I always think like TV shows or telling stories or a narrative or the more I'm interested in features, that's what I'm interested in now. I just want to do features and I want to direct more. And that to me is fun. And write the music and all that stuff. Do everything I did for Army of the Doomstar, but live action, you know?
Yeah.
So that's how I have fun,
so
yeah.
That's potentially the future.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's what I think. I mean, I'm always writing, I'm always working on stuff. I always have a script in development somewhere. That's how I have fun, is scaring the shit out of myself and trying to put myself in a place to deliver.
You've really managed to make a lot of fun things into a living without it being in a lane that anyone's normally in. Like, you know what I mean? Like comedy now, like, you know, the biggest comedy show is Rick and Morty, right? Like the number one show. And it, like, do you kind of look at that show almost in like a parental way, where you can kind of see the little bits of like DNA you've kind of left on?
I don't know. I mean, first of all, I don't check out anything. Like, I mean, I love movies. I tend to stay away from animation. The reason is I just see the tedium that I have to deal with all the time. So if I watch animation, I watch like old analog nerd stuff like Ralph Bakshi or old Disney. That's the most inspiring stuff, where people died making it. You know, like you see like Akira, you're like, oh, look at all these people. It's like a monument of like, you know, death, of like, oh, they all died. They all gave their lives for this thing. I think about like when I see like a Marvel movie, like VFX, like just the obelisk of like, look at all the people who died making this. Like, people must have died making this stuff.
There's a minimum like 10 people. Minimum 10 people have had like some Metalocalypse gear falls from a rafter, rolls through an animation studio in Kazakhstan and takes out half the workforce.
But just the crazy tedium of all that stuff. It's bonkers that people finish anything. You know, our show was like, when we came out, we were like the highest rated show, and then Rick and Morty came out, and it really just dwarfed everybody. They really appealed to everybody, because we definitely made a choice to make a show that was about extreme music that's divisive, you know? When I was 14, there wasn't anything related to guitars or heavy metal or anything. There was maybe Headbangers Ball. I didn't have cable, so I was only on like TV. And I thought, I'd like to make a show for me when I was 14, 15 years old, discovering heavy music and discovering guitar. Unless somebody shows you this stuff, unless somebody says, hey, I've got some really heavy music, do you want to check it out? And it doesn't happen unless you have a friend or an older sibling or something. I mean, how did you learn about heavy stuff? Yeah,
again, just like cool people I wanted to be friends with.
Exactly. Somebody older, maybe?
Exactly. It's always the like.
How about you?
Like
Same thing?
I use the term uncle brother because it's always an uncle or a brother.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm learning is this show's been on for about 15 years. Those kids are about 15 years old. Now they're in their 30s, and I'm seeing them all in the front row. And they're like, this is how I got into heavy music. So I don't know. I'm going all over the map. All over the map. We're talking about music and comedy. It's hard to even like keep a place
I
in
mean,
this stuff,
you know, it's that thing where you know, the instant you start talking about a subject you actually want to talk about,
I know.
You're like, ooh, let's.
I know. It's like an explosion of like synapses firing, and I'm like, I don't even know what this question was anymore because there's so much stuff. You ask me like, I'm like, right, that's a whole other thing over there. By the way, this is what it's like to be in my head. I'm like, well, what am I even thinking about? Like,
did I say Peter Frampton was my favorite Beatle?
He is one of the greats. We haven't even started really talking about movies either, which is like all I talk about, really. Like, I don't even talk about music or comedy. I only talk about movies.
Well, I know you also like bad movies predominantly. There were a large passion for bad movies.
No, I think, listen, I like shit to be like either like Lawrence of Arabia or Toxic Avenger. Like, I don't like any of this in-between bullshit. I want it to be, but I really like all kinds of expression in cinema. Like what people would call bad movies, I'm interested in movies that kind of don't land. I'm interested in movies that really land and move me, that make me, emotional. I like movies that are like, I love horror movies. I like trash horror movies. I like trash cinema. And I like lofty, fucking crazy, gorgeous, beautiful Criterion stuff too. I mean, you're allowed to like all this stuff. My brother comes over like once a week and we try to curate something. Like, we get super high and watch something, and it's gonna be like, anything from like The Wizard of Speed and Time. If you haven't seen this movie, check it out. It's one of the weirdest movies, and it's so interesting, and it's all about a passionate person who like basically turned his FX reel from like the 70s into a movie.
It's the kind of movie you would make if you didn't have anything better to do. 5 years in the making, 5 days in the theaters, So see it while you can and tell your friends.
It's about everything we're kind of talking about, the meticulousness and the granular quality of getting into something. It is one of the craziest movies that was ever made, and it's really interesting. And I see myself in the character in a way that yeah, maybe I don't want to admit that too much, but it's also just like crazy. I do a lot of stuff at once, and I'm insane. But yeah, I like all kinds of style of cinema, and I just appreciate the whole thing. Yeah. And the amount of work that goes into making something that lands as good or bad is kind of the same.
Yeah, right.
And then something just is missing or something's off. I'm interested in that. I'm interested in whatever that strange thing is. Oh, I'll watch stuff where I'm like, just don't understand what's going on. I am completely fascinated. Like, let's say Sex and the City 2, the movie. Let's say, and Just Like That, the series, if you haven't seen it. I am fascinated. I'm fascinated. Not even on a condescending way. Just take me on a ride. You've got some kind of a crazy idea. Take me with you. Let's see where you go.
A friend of mine actually had a podcast called The Worst Idea of All Time, where they watched Sex and the City 2 every week for a year.
Oh, is that
did a
person me?
podcast episode about it? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I am interested. I'm interested. I remember I saw that on a plane one point, and I'm like, there's Liza Minnelli, and like fishnet stockings, dancing and saying, if you doing Beyonce's Put a Ring on It, and I'm like, I've never had this feeling before, and I don't know what it is. I've never felt this way. Because when you're in your plane and you're like flying and watching a movie and you have like a glass of red wine or something, you're so emotional up there, and you watch a romantic comedy, I'm like, oh, Eat, Pray, Love. Oh, she's getting over her relationship problems, and I'm happy for her. You get so emotional up there. It's crazy. It's so funny.
The altitude gets not getting enough oxygen.
If you want to show somebody a movie, show them a movie on a plane. Like, that's where you should screen your movie to see if it's working emotionally. Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, but I saw Sex and the City too, like on a flight to Australia once, and I was like, I'll never be the same again.
It's definitely those movies you watch where it's just, you're not critically viewing something, you're just like bewildered and you don't have an answer. Like you don't.
And it's also landing in the right way sometimes. Terrifier 2 this year. I saw it and I got too stoned. And I watched it, and my brother and I, we were gonna watch it, and we just watched the first 5 minutes together, and we had heard all these stories of Terrifier 2, and people like throwing up in the aisles and passing out, and people being inconsolable afterwards, and we're like, oh, it's so, and we were like watching the first 5 minutes, we're like, oh, I'm throwing up in the aisles, oh no, and then my brother left, and I watched the rest of the movie, and it got to a point where I was like, oh no, oh no, and I was like one of those idiots at the beginning of like a movie that's like making fun of the killer, and then I get like slaughtered somewhere in the middle, and by the end I was like, whatever this movie is, it is fucking working. It is working. This guy is brutal, and God bless him. Boy, did he nail this shit.
Yeah.
It's fucking nuts. That movie is nuts. That, like, I had to go and like find people to talk to about that movie.
We're just talking about like kind of gorgeous art, and one of the kind of great things to come out of Metalocalypse was the guitars. I mean, you could have gone a entirely different, grotesque, dark, BC Rich route, but you went with this kind of very classic, both metal but like kind of, restrained style for the guitars, and you've been able to kind of get them actually into production. What was the process of making these? Like, I don't play guitar, and I bought a Thunder Horse to put on the wall because I was like, this is gorgeous.
So it goes back to animation, and I thought I could build a guitar. I could. But I look at new guitar designs, and I think they really did nail them. There was something about Gibson, and I was playing Gibson at that point just on my own, and I really liked it, and it just felt classic to me. So I thought I'd love to use this, and not only that, here I am. I'm crazy and stupid enough to make a show about heavy metal, and I'm making for this 14-year-old who's also folding his arms and frowning and saying, you're doing everything wrong, you're not representing heavy metal right, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, right. I'm gonna get a lot of that. I need to use real guitars. I need to get the fingering right. I need to like appease everything that's the guitar nerd in me when I was 14 wanted. And I just thought, no one's doing that. Why not just show all that stuff? Why not start a relationship with Gibson and try to build guitars with them? Yeah. And the whole idea is like, if things go well, why not try all this stuff? There's no other way I'm gonna have any other opportunity to meet my heroes, to make guitars, to play music, to go on tour with a group of people. I have one guitar over here. Maybe you can't see it on the camera, but it's like, that's the guitar I recorded the first Dethklok record with.
Oh, wow.
I'll show it to you.
Yeah, good.
This is like This is it's just a simple like Explorer from like 2006 or something, like 2005 or 2006, and I have new frets on it and just like old pickups, and it's just like a classic guitar that you could play Thin Lizzy on or play Cannibal Corpse on if you want to, or Steely Dan or whatever if you wanted to. And this is just a classic guitar. All my other ones were stolen last year, so I had like there's a robbery right before I got into the studio, right before I did a show and stuff. So I'm slowly going to be replenishing everything that was missing, but this is one of the ones that survived, and I'm glad it did, because it's a cool one.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the silver lining is, as someone with guitar envy, you just go, oh no, I have to replace them all. I have to get new guitars.
I have no choice. Yeah.
The universe said I should buy more guitars.
I know. I have to go shopping now. Oh, what am I going to do? Oh no. Dear. Yeah, it is pretty nice.
We know what's happening, the Baby Clock tour. Is there anything else you want to?
It's been really fun, like I said. I think I'm very lucky to have a really great band to play with, a really cool tour to be on, and to have gotten to use all of this stuff as an excuse to kind of get better at telling stories and writing music. And it's all stuff just to like please that dorky 14-year-old inside of me. And so it's been really fun. So I consider myself lucky.
Consider myself lucky for getting to have this chance. So much appreciated.
Thanks, man.
Can't wait to watch you tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you.